Okay, let's jump right into this explainer and look at how language acts as our everyday time machine. We use it constantly, often without even realizing it, to anchor our stories, our actions, and our memories to a very specific point in history. Today, we're diving deep to figure out exactly how the simple past tense works.
So here is our roadmap for today. 1. Defining the time machine. 2. Unlocking the code. 3. Regular versus irregular verbs. 4. Real-world action. And finally, 5. Blockbuster screenwriting.
All right, Section 1. Defining the time machine. What exactly is the simple past?
Simply put, the simple past tense verbal is your go-to structure for describing completed actions, events, or habits that happened at a specific finished time in the past. But there's a really important distinction we need to make here. Today, we're strictly looking at dynamic and stative action verbs. We're completely leaving aside linking verbs like was or were. We're talking about pure action, the things you actually did, not just states of being.
Moving on to Section 2. Unlocking the code and those core grammatical formulas.
Okay, so notice how the auxiliary verb did behaves here. If we look at the positive sentence type first, the formula is super straightforward. Subject plus verb to, which is just the past simple form of your verb. So she bought a new car last week. But watch what happens in the negative and question forms. The auxiliary verb did completely takes over the past tense duty. It literally forces the main verb right back to its base form, or verb 1. So you get she didn't buy and did she buy. Basically, did does all the heavy lifting, so the main verb just doesn't have to.
Section 3. Regular versus irregular verbs. The shapeshifters.
You can kind of think of verbs as shapeshifters. First up, you've got your regular verbs. These are the polite rule followers. They just add an ed or a d. Walk becomes walked, play becomes played, stop becomes stopped. Easy, right? Well, irregular verbs are a whole different story. They throw the rule book completely out the window and demand to be memorized. Go transforms all the way into went. Make becomes made, eat becomes ate. There's absolutely no fixed rule here. It is pure memorization.
So that brings us to this absolute golden rule of grammar. You must never break this. Never use verb to in negative sentences or questions. The word did already tells us we're in the past tense.
Have you ever caught yourself making this exact mistake? In a quick text or a rushed email, something like, she didn't went to the store. It happens all the time, but it's fundamentally incorrect. Why? Because didn't and went are literally fighting over the past tense. You only need one. The correct version, she didn't go to the store. Let's didn't do its job, which allows go to just stay in its pure base form.
Let's look at Section 4, Real-World Action and Everyday Communication.
This is where the mechanics turn into muscle memory. Think about it. Whether you're confirming a sent email with a positive irregular verb like I sent the email, or you're questioning a missing payment using a negative structure like we didn't receive, or maybe asking a coworker, did you finish the presentation? You are relying on this exact code to make your communication clear and professional. Even reflecting on your past habits, like I exercised, uses this same foundational structure.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we use a sequence of verb to actions to build a timeline of past events. He entered, turned on, checked. Those are all regular verbs ending in ed. It's almost like you're narrating a mini mystery. You're literally walking the listener through exactly what happened, step by step, using the simple past to firmly plant each and every action into a completed timeline.
All right, Section 5, Blockbuster screenwriting, the Hollywood payoff.
Let's start with an absolute classic from 1972, The Godfather. When Don Vito Corleone explains his chilling motives, he leans right into our grammatical formula. He says, I made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Breaking this down, we've got our subject, I, and then our verb to, made. Notice how the irregular verb made, which is the past form of make, perfectly locks that menacing action into a specific, finished time in the past. He isn't currently making the offer. The deal is done. The action is entirely completed.
Jumping forward to 2019 with Avengers Endgame, it turns out even intergalactic supervillains have to follow the rules of the simple past tense when explaining their devastating actions. When the Avengers finally track Thanos down, he tells them, I used the stones to destroy the stones. It almost killed me. Here we actually see Thanos utilizing two regular verbs, used and killed. Both of them are politely taking that ed ending. He's delivering his dramatic origin story of the universe's current state.
This grammatical structure perfectly describes a specific, completed, and irreversible event that took place right before the Avengers arrived.
Finally, let's take a look at 1994's Forrest Gump. We use this tense not just for villainous plots or mob deals, but to recount really powerful memories and wisdom from the people we love. Sitting on that famous bench, Forrest says, "My mama always said life was like a box of chocolates."
The grammar here is incredibly simple, but it's so evocative. Subject, my mama. Verb 2, said. Forrest perfectly deploys the irregular past form of the verb say to capture his late mother's repeated past habit. And by doing that, he cements her advice into an iconic cinematic moment forever.
You now have this linguistic time machine fully at your disposal. You understand the rules, you know how to navigate the regular and irregular shapeshifters, and you absolutely know how to let did do the heavy lifting. So, go out there and write your own blockbuster narrative. Now that you have the code, what completed action will you describe next to tell your own story?